You beat all the odds.
Absolutely. When I was 13 years old, I got to tour the United States with the Rosa Parks. And so my takeaway from that whole thing was you want to take advantage of many opportunities as possible. I knew by that time I wanted to do engineering.
But electrical engineering, I mean, that's for the top of the top.
For those who have ever had a Nintendo, you had to blow the cartridge. But when we tried to blow the cartridge and put it in, it didn't work. And so there was something inside of me that said, open it up. So I go get a screwdriver.
This is The Build-Up, a podcast by Procon Consulting. We have a remarkable guest with us, someone who embodies resilience, determination, Sulaiman Harris from the Impact Group. Welcome to The Build-Up.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Now, I was actually checking on my email and trying to figure out, man, I've known Sulaiman for so long, and I just wanted to get how long I've known you. I don't know if you knew, but 15 years.
Wow.
It was back in the days when you and I were spending many hours working late at night on the St. E's program out in Southeast. And so I've been meaning to have you on this show. I know you and I talked about it, and I'm so excited to have you here and just to share your remarkable journey and your ability to give back to the community. So I thought that maybe we can just get started with your early childhood and what that was like growing up in Washington, D.C.
As you stated, we've known each other for 10 years now.
15.
15. You're right. Since 2010. Wow. But I grew up shortly down the road from St. Elizabeth.
Okay.
Right across the street from Savoy Elementary School, which is right at the bottom of the hill of St. Elizabeth. So growing up there, of course, like many other youth growing up in inner city, urban areas, it's a rough neighborhood, you know. You see a lot of violence. You see a lot of drug use. I was one of 7. So growing up, of course, we were financially strapped, and we grew up on welfare. And I remember ever since I was a young tot, I just couldn't wait to be able to make a living for myself. And I remember at 6 years old, there was a gas station right across the street. I was pumping gas at the gas station. And we used to have a little script that we used to do, and you'd say, "Excuse me, sir, can I pump your gas for a quarter?" At that time, a quarter was a lot of money. You didn't mind. So that was some of my early memories. And then as time progressed, we had to walk to school. And we had to walk maybe a mile or two to school. Because we had to walk to school, when there was inclement weather, we didn't go because the weather prevented us from walking to school. And so because of that, we missed a lot of days. And me and my brother, I know for a fact, we wound up being held back. And so I had to repeat second grade. I guess somebody smartened up and decided to transfer us to Savoy Elementary, which was near that gas station. So we wound up going to Savoy Elementary at that time. I was always a great student. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed seeing good grades on my report card. And I remember this one instance, this one guy who didn't get as good of grades, he took my report card and tried to write his name on my report card. Of course, he didn't get away with it.
You're a straight A student.
Except citizenship. I used to finish my work real quick than the other students. Like I really enjoyed school and math in particular. And I remember I had a math teacher. He was really strict on me. His name was Mr. Johnson. And he used to say, "You're a smart student, but you talk too much." Mr. Johnson was one of my favorite teachers. Even though he was hard on me and I had to stay after class and things of that nature, he became one of my favorite teachers. I feel like he gave me some life lessons that stuck with me till this day. Wow. And one of them was, don't go to school with your friends.
What did he mean by that?
Well, I guess he was able to see things that I didn't see at that time. I was easily influenced by others, or others try to pull me down. He didn't want to see me go down a wrong path.
I mean, what I really enjoy about your story is that you beat all the odds.
Absolutely.
You were in an environment that you could have gone the other way, and despite that, you were able to withstand whatever the influences and maybe you've had some mentors or people and help along the way. And I don't know, just for the audience, like, what was that? What helped you beat all the odds?
So speaking of some of those odds, sometimes I'm amazed myself at some of the things that we encountered growing up. They say if you have a parent that serves time in prison, you're likely to go to prison as well.
Right.
And so my dad definitely served time in prison. And my dad was one of my role models. He was the first person who I saw entrepreneurship. He was the first person that showed me how to defend myself. And then another thing, they say, hey, if your parents use drugs, you're likely to also become a user. And I know I saw my dad use heroin. I saw my mom smoke crack. It wasn't nothing unusual for myself and others that grew up with me to see. It was normal. But now I'm looking back on it, it definitely were some things that would traumatize most people. And I think it also traumatized us, but we didn't feel it at the time.
But was there something in your life that you encountered that you said, you know what, I'm going to take a different path?
So even at a young age, I knew that wasn't what I wanted for my life. And thanks be to God, there was a community center in the neighborhood called Children of Mine Youth Center. I started going there at 6 years old. And unlike other activities you saw in the neighborhood, that place was like a safe haven. It was like a community within itself. We had volunteers from all professions, from the Air Force to doctors to lawyers. And so going to the Children of Mine Center, they were able to give us warm meals every day. They was able to provide tutoring for us for homework. They was able to provide different recreational outlets for us. Of course, we played basketball, baseball, football, all the sports. We got to go to summer camp every year.
Was there a person in the community center that you recall that has made a major impact, or maybe several people, mentors?
Yes, there was several. I'll name a few. Miss Hawkins, the director, she was a mother of 5. Her husband had been murdered. And so even in spite of that, she was trying to care for all these other kids in the community, up to 200 kids at the time. And when it was time to go to summer camp, we had to get a physical. She would take us herself to get these physicals. Even when your mother didn't take you, even when your own relative wouldn't take you. There was another gentleman by the name of Mr. Roy Barber. He was the music teacher at St. Andrew's Episcopal School. And when I want to say like 8 or 9 years old, he put on a play. And I was in that play. And so that's when him and I first
What
met
did you
each other.
play?
I played a 8-year-old kid, and I just remember this one line from the play. I had to say, "He-Man's on." So I had to watch it.
I think
was
your
ready to
voice
watch
cracked
He-Man.
just a hair there.
And so he was very inspirational for me. I saw firsthand the work he put into place to be able to provide funding for me to attend Archbishop Carroll on scholarship. He was able to solicit funds from his church family, some out of his own pocket, because they saw the potential in me. Because at the time, I went to Frederick Douglass Junior High School, and that wasn't the best school. That was very chaotic. There was fights every day, because at the time, there was a lot of turf wars. And it just wasn't a place where you can really get a good education. And I remember at the time taking what they call the PSAT, and I scored the highest in the school. Even though it was in the highest in the school, it was only like a 920. So they was like, wow, this guy, he's
Got potential.
he got potential.
What grade were you when you transferred?
At the time, I had built up a good rapport with my teachers at Douglass. I let them know, hey, I might not be coming back here next year. I'm trying to get into another school. I mentioned to them that I was held back in 2nd grade. And so I'll never forget this lady by the name of Miss Perry. She was my math teacher. You see this trend with these math teachers, And she was like, well, if you come back to this school next year, we're going to make sure you're in your right grade. So it didn't work out to go to Deal Junior High School. Went back to Frederick Douglass Junior High School, and I was able to skip 8th grade. So I never went to 8th grade.
So you went back up.
I went back up. I went straight to 9th grade when I came
I've
back.
ever heard of anyone
Yeah.
that's done.
Fast forward, they told me that I would have been the valedictorian of my graduating class at Frederick Douglass. But I have to attend the school for 3 years, and I only had attended 2 years, 7th and 9th. But they said, what we can do for you is make you master of ceremonies. And so as I'm emceeing the graduating class, every award came to me. So that was a great experience. Once I left there, it worked out where I was able to get the scholarship to go to Archbishop Carroll. At that point, I knew I wanted to do engineering as well.
Man, I mean, I think it's just an incredible story that people sought you out because you differentiated. You were unique, and there were all these hands that were placed in your life to kind of help lift you up in such a way. I just find that story so inspiring. Can we go a little bit more into what was sort of the college application like? Like what type of opportunities were being presented at you? I mean, you landed at one of the most premier engineering schools in the country. I'll let you say it.
You Pitt? So if I could rewind back 1 second, because this was a pivotal moment in my life as well. So when I was 13 years old, my mom passed away when I was 13. And right before she passed away, I got to tour the United States with the Rosa Parks. And she was running a program at a time, and basically we retraced the different historic sites of the Underground Railroad during the enslavement of African Americans in the country. We were able to visit the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was assassinated. We was able to go and visit where they had the bus boycott and the sit-ins during Jim Crow time in this country. I was able to see all that firsthand. And so it really had a huge impact on me to see how African Americans didn't have a lot of opportunities. And so my takeaway from that whole thing was you want to take advantage of many opportunities as possible because you didn't always have them. You couldn't vote. You couldn't do a lot of things. So I made a mission to myself, like take advantage of every opportunity. So in high school, I knew by that time I wanted to do engineering. It wasn't until I got to Pitt I realized that I was so underprepared because I was thinking, okay, this private Catholic high school is for sure will prepare me for college because it was college preparatory school. It was much better than Frederick Douglass. So
if it makes you feel any better, my time at Virginia Tech, I felt the same way.
I wasn't prepared at all because now you are paired with people from all over the world, literally all over the world. You got students all over the world, and you don't know what they've been exposed to. But the decision to go to University of Pittsburgh came about at the time. You know, I was dating a young lady in high school, and so I wanted to try to go somewhere that wasn't too far from her.
I'm just curious why you didn't look at Virginia Tech.
When I think of Virginia Tech, I'm thinking country.
It's in the country.
You know, coming from the city, you know, I said, hey, I know city. Let me stay somewhere close to the city. I knew I didn't want to stay home. Going back to what Mr. Johnson told me, don't go to school with your friends. So a lot of my friends were staying local. I knew I didn't want to go to school with them. But when I went to the University of Pittsburgh, it felt like home. Because at the time, they had a program called the Impact Program. And the Impact Program was designed specifically for minority students to help you navigate this rigorous coursework of engineering. And so when we went, they was like, hey, you got options. You can stay home, play with your friends, and try to excel in this rigorous coursework, or you can come to the summer program for 6 weeks to get acclimated with what you need to know for engineering. And when I went to that program, that's when I realized Archbishop Carroll High School didn't prepare me. Because at that time, I had never taken calculus. How you not ever take calculus saying you want to come to engineering?
So you had not taken any calculus at all?
No.
Wow.
So my freshman year of college, I actually had to take pre-calc
Wow.
because I never had taken calculus.
So can I go back? You threw it out there pretty lightly.
Mhm.
Is that where you came up with the name Impact Group?
It is. It is.
So it's the Impact program from Pitt
Yes.
that prepared you for college
Yes.
is where you derived the Impact Group.
Absolutely. And it was such a great program when you think about it, because unlike other freshmen, you already had formed camaraderie and friendships with other fellow engineers, where everyone else was starting off, I don't know the one, I need to learn the campus, I need to do this. We had already had a whole group of us.
Now, is that where you met Anthony?
Anthony is a little older than me,
Okay.
but he also came through the Impact program. But that's when him and I met at the School of Engineering.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about your business partner, Anthony, but I want to stay a little bit on this topic. Something that I've never really asked you, which is, there's pecking orders in the engineering program across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm a civil engineering. That's kind of the middle of the road. Hate to admit it. But electrical engineering, I mean, that's for the top of the top. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just curious, you have your entire area of discipline that you can choose. Why did you choose electrical engineering?
So we have to rewind back. When I was maybe 8 years old, I had a Nintendo game station. For those who have ever had a Nintendo, you had to blow the cartridge for it to show up. But at the time, I think somebody was eating some cereal while we was playing the games. It had to be like a Saturday, eating cereal. And the cereal bowl spilled over, a little milk went in. But when we tried to blow the cartridge and put it in, it didn't work. And so I'm like, that's strange. And so there was something inside of me that said, open it up. So I go get a screwdriver. I open up the Nintendo. And at the time, I don't know what I'm looking at. All I see, what I describe as a green board with all these silver dots. Now I know it's a breadboard with soldering tips all over it. But when I opened it up, I'm not reading a book. We don't have YouTube. We don't have the internet, all of these things at this time. Stuff is just coming to me.
Absorbing it for the first time.
Yeah, so I'm and I wipe this white residue off of the board. Put everything back together, put it in, it worked. So ever since then, I had this curiosity, I want to know more about the electrical components. And so when I came to Pitt, I already knew I wanted to do electrical. But to confirm that's what I wanted to do, they give you the introductory to all the other disciplines. And it was that time I was like, yep, electrical is what I want to do, because electrical engineering was a part of all the other disciplines. Like when you think of civil engineering, if you have a bridge, you have a stoplight on a bridge, you might have a lift arm on a bridge. It's like, all right, you need a electrical component. In the mechanical systems, okay, you need some electricity, you need, so I felt like I would be a part of all the other disciplines by choosing electrical. But that freshman year was tough for me, getting acclimated. Even though we had the 6-week program, another tragedy, I would say, hit my life. My dad had passed away. So I was 18 years old at the time. Like I said, my mom had already passed away at 13. So it wasn't like I had this huge support system to get you through this difficult time. So I would say it's my faith that really I had to lean heavily into, as well as immediate family.
Did you take any time off?
No. I mean, how could you? So there was no time to take any time off. You just had to keep moving. And like I said, the thing that was ringing in my head loudly is take advantage of opportunity. It's an opportunity. Everybody from where you from can't go to college. You have to get through this. You have to.
So something you learned at 13 with your mom passing away and you going through this experience of a lifetime telling you, hey, you can't, pass up on any opportunities,
pass
take
up on any
full advantage of
opportunity.
everything.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So that's what I did.
So 4 years, 4 years,
5 years,
5 years.
because I did the co-op program. And for those of you that don't know, co-op program is where you get to leave school to go work.
And who did you work for?
I worked for a company called Warehouser. It was in Johnsonburg, PA. It's a paper mill, but it turned out to be a great opportunity. I spent all 3 rotations there, which was equivalent to about a year's worth of work experience.
And how did you choose this co-op opportunity?
You just show your interest in wanting to participate in a co-op program. You let them know what your major is, and they will find a place for you. You don't pick, they find a place for you. You didn't care. You like, hey, I get to work, I get to make some money. A college student, you don't have much money. And it couldn't come at a better time because I had hit a rough patch academically where in my mind it was saying, this is not fun no more. Just give up, be done. And, once your mind tells you that, that's like the worst place you could be. And that really reignited my spark.
Just kind of gave you,
Yeah.
reset for you.
Absolutely. It was a great reset for me. The clarity came, okay, this is why you're doing this. This is what you need to do. You realize you're learning all this theory in engineering, but to see the application in real life can really ignite you and say, okay, this is why this is important.
So fast forward, you do graduate
I do graduate.
and go into construction. I always like to ask, how did you get into construction?
Never saw myself going into construction. So my dream job coming out of school, I wanted to work for like a consumer electronics company, testing gadgets before it hit the market. But it didn't come through for me. And so when I came home, a friend of mine, his uncle said, hey, I have an opportunity for you working as a project engineer out at Dulles Airport. I'm like, what's a project engineer? What do they do? He was like, you're going to learn a lot. It might not be EE per se, but you're going to learn a lot. But it was interesting because when I went out there, it was just me representing the Continental Construction part of the JV. So it wasn't like I had coworkers necessarily. And so I want to say I sat at my desk maybe a week with no one saying anything to me. I was used to being told the directions. Hey, go do this. That's how it is in college, right? Somebody's telling you what to do. When I was at my co-op, they're telling me what to do. Hey, go do this. No one told me anything. And then I went to the main PM, and I was like, what am I to do? I was like, I never did construction. I was getting a little frustrated. I was like, I never did construction. I'm just here. He said, I'm going to be a project engineer. He was like, go sketch me out a door jamb. Like a door jamb. I don't know what that is.
I can do a circuit, but not a door.
I was like, I never did construction. He was like, I know. Go sketch me out a door jamb. And
when I sketch or AutoCAD sketch?
A hand sketch.
Okay.
A hand sketch. I was frustrated at the time. I'm like, why am I here? I don't belong here. There's nothing I want to do. But then I realized this is tough love. This is going to put you exactly where you need to be. And once that shifted in my mind, everything opened up. You know what I mean? Like this magical world, everything just like,
Like your paradigm of thinking.
Yes.
Like you control the outcome of your life.
You control the outcome of your life. They did put me with the main EE guy. And so, you know this, if you work for a big construction company, what they do is they allocate certain trades to you. So I had about 10 trades at the time that I was managing and overseeing. But then I realized as a project engineer, you have a very critical piece because they started coming to me and said, okay, did you inspect the embeds before we do the concrete pour? I was like, wow. And then I remember we were doing a taller partition. People would say, hey, what's the dimension on this? What's the dimension on that? I was like, wow, I didn't know this is a very important job. And so from there is where I developed this love for project management. As a tradesman, you only see what you're responsible for. If you're an electrician, you only see that person. But working with the GC, I was able to see the whole project. So you're looking at these architectural renderings, you're looking at the drawings, you're reading through RFIs now, you're looking at the schedule. So this is where all these things within inside me start lightening up. And I was like, man, this is where I want to be.
When in your life did this entrepreneurial spirit, is that something you've always had, or is that somewhere in your professional career something lit for you?
Looking at my dad, he had it because my dad was an artist. So he would paint murals and do storefront signage. And so the aspect of entrepreneurship that I really enjoyed seeing from him, he could pick his own schedule. He was in charge of his time. And some days he used to take me to work with him, and he'd say, hey, I'll give you half of what I make. But a lot of times he would say, a person would say, how much? He was like, give me what you think is worth. He'd let the person pay them what they thought his work was worth. And that would let him know how much
to charge
his stuff was worth. He knew the value that he was providing to that person. Right. So I think it started with my dad. And then I think throughout my journey of my career, it kind of knocked on my door more and more. So when I worked out at the airport, I was the only one representing the company, the JV at that time. And they made me do my own payroll. And so I knew how much I was getting paid, but then I saw the government markup and things of that nature, and I was like, I'm not getting that. And so that kind of started.
I have such a similar story.
That started this curiosity. Asking
Everything
for this
is kind of leading you into
Everything is leading me because it's like, okay, this is how much I'm getting paid. This is what the company is getting paid. I developed this great relationship with a gentleman by the name of Tom Vash. And lo and behold, Tom Vash was an independent contractor. And so him and I, just like you and I, will have these long talks. And so he asked me some of my aspirations. And I was like, I'm thinking about maybe doing my own business. I had this.
By the time I met you at 2010, you were all
I had
in.
it.
You were already hooked.
But these were the experiences. So this is the last one. Once I left Capitol Hill, I got an opportunity working at Walter Reed Hospital in D.C. on 16th Street right before they shut it down. And so that was another opportunity that I was running a project by myself. And then once the project ended, we had the warranty period. That's when they allowed me to be the warranty agent after the project. So I had got my first check for Holly Enterprises at that project.
So you now got the taste.
I got the taste.
Yeah, you were hooked.
I was hooked.
So tell me about that. I'm curious, because I was trying to remember when you started the Impact Group. But I knew that you had always had the passion to start a company or to go into IT. I mean, you have a master's.
Yes.
In
information systems. Yes. And
networking. But when did the Impact Group, or did you already know that you wanted to start the Impact Group during your time at Pitt?
No, I didn't. At my time at Pitt, I didn't even think I wanted to do my own business. I remember another gentleman named Mr. Tucker. He asked me, what did I want to do once I graduated? I was like, oh, go get this job and do this and do this. He was like, if you're getting a master's, why would you want to go work for somebody else? You should be creating the opportunities. Right. So that kind of stuck in my head. And so once I graduated Pitt and had all these professional experiences, that's when what he said kind of came back to me and was like, how about you create some opportunities? And so I created Harley Enterprises, got my first taste being the warranty agent at Walter Reed. And so I knew then. And so as I was scrolling through Facebook one day, I saw Anthony, which is a guy who I went to Pitt with. I saw that he had his own business doing small business consulting. And at the time, I was doing small business consulting under Harley. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, you want to have lunch? We may have some synergies here because we're doing the same thing. And we met at Starbucks right there on U Street.
Okay.
And we had like maybe a 2-3 hour conversation. And we were kind of asking each other, like, why you want to start a business? Why you even want to do business? And what we realized is we both had a very convincing why. His why and my why, it kind of met. And we said, hey, how about we try to work together? Because I had already tried to do a lot of things on my own, and I just wasn't being productive because I was trying to work a regular job, and
Hmm.
it was just too much. And so I realized if I could get a partner, we can really help each other up. So that was in 2015. We decided to start the business, and we went around and around and around as far as what do we call this business. And I don't know if it was him or me that we was like, Impact Group. That's it. We realized how important the Impact program from University of Pittsburgh for us and ensuring that we
For both of
graduated
you.
for both of us. So we said, hey, I think this is a great representation that we could do for our business because we want to be able to provide opportunities for others that may not have it otherwise.
Now, talking a little bit about Anthony. So you reconnect with him.
Reconnect, yes.
How has that relationship been like? Because I know, like, one of the most asked questions of me is my partner that I work with every day, and they say that a lot of businesses fail when you have two friends that work together, and I'm a testament. It hasn't always been easy, so don't think that it is. But yeah, I mean, we've had a successful relationship. My relationship goes way back to when I was in sixth grade,
Oh,
but
wow.
nonetheless, a relationship is a relationship. There's one thing to be friends, but to be business partners is another. So I'm just curious from your
Yeah,
perspective, how has that been like for you and any lessons learned?
absolutely. So fortunate for me, I was a part of other business venture with friends.
Oh, okay.
And I realized if you all's reason for doing it is not aligned, it's not going to work. And so when Anthony and I had that meeting at Starbucks, I came with that lesson. Like, hey, if why we're doing this doesn't align, I'm not doing it. And so for us, the whys really align. Losing my parents at an early age and having to depend on so many other people to help me along the way, I just grew this passion to be able to help other people. And I think it's our shared passion for helping other people
Mhm.
that allow us to do the business. It's not easy. Like you said, it's not easy being friends and running a business, but I think our why for doing the business
Mhm.
becomes greater than any conflict or dispute that may come up. I mean, at the end of the day, just like any other relationship, you're two different people,
Mhm.
and you might think differently, you might have different viewpoints, but I think you stay focused on why you're doing it, and that gets us through.
That's great. I think similar to in my experience, you have to understand that you're here for the larger reason. And I recently I'm rereading this book by Stephen Covey, The Seven Habits of
Hmm.
Effective
Heard
Leadership,
of it?
and I find the part about begin with the end in mind. And so for me, nothing is worth breaking a relationship over. And so as long as like you gotta check your pride
Yes.
out out the door and just level with people. And I think that's been the success for us. And it sounds like for you, you again focusing on something that is outside of the actual issue, which is why are we here, and just making sure that they're still in alignment, everything's still in check, so nothing we may have disagreements on is going to matter. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, it's this thing that I heard, you can't sweat the small stuff,
Yeah.
and it's all small stuff. And so I think that's so true. Like a lot of things people have conflicts over is small stuff. So you got to just let it go.
So let's talk about another relationship that you've entered into, and that
Okay.
is with us, Procon.
Excellent.
I'm just curious, like, I have my reasons why. Obviously, amazing two guys that I know. You, I know on a personal level, and the work ethic and the things that you bring to the table. But I'm curious from your standpoint, what was sort of the rationale behind getting and entering into a joint venture with our firm?
I'm not saying this just because I'm sitting here with you. All the years I've known you, I've had the opportunity to see how Procon operates as a business. And my observation of those things have really it's things that I admire. I think a big part of business is people, right? Without people, you have nothing. So I really enjoy how Procon take care of their people. But in addition to that, I feel like Procon is always cutting edge when it comes to things, even your office space to, the technology. And I felt that forming this JV with Procon was very in alignment with what Impact Group is interested in as well. Not only do we do CM, we feel as though we can learn a lot from you all in the CM space because you've been doing it for so long, and you have great client relationships, but also from the technological piece, we just look to be able to share in the, I won't call it R&D, but like
Right. Cutting edge, exciting things.
exciting things, emerging technology, how to push the envelope as far as the industry is concerned.
Making a change for our industry. Forward
Exactly.
thinking for sure, 100%.
Absolutely. Being able to experiment with new ideas. I think Procon is open to experiment with new ideas. And I think that's right in alignment with what Impact Group is trying to do as well. So I think it was the perfect joining of two firms, and we look forward to the opportunities. And we thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I feel the same way, and I thank you for the opportunity. And I think, synergy, someone has mentioned, is defined as 1 + 1 = 5,
I like that.
And so for me, I see that like two people passionate about what they do, passionate about innovation and technology. It's a great merging of the two firms to go after opportunities together. But speaking of the company, now we get to kind of the meatier substance of the discussion. Share with the audience, what do you do? What are your core competencies? What keeps you up at night,
So the Impact Group, we are newly 8A minority firm in the construction management space. We specialize in owner representation as well as building automation. Things that keeps me up at night is just how do we scale the business? For us, some of our growing pains are we have to wear many hats, right? You have to work on the business as well as in the business. And so we want to be able to scale the business where we can spend more time working on the business instead of in the business. So just finding good talent, talented people that shares in your passion to grow the business.
What are some exciting projects are you working on?
We just finished a project over at NIST. NIST has some specialty labs where they do a lot of sophisticated testing. So we had to upgrade their old inundated BAS system with a more up-to-date system to be able to control the space within 0.01 accuracy. I didn't know you can control that tight.
Wow.
So that was an interesting project. So we just finished that. We just finished up a project over at the Ronald Reagan building. It was an energy savings performance contract. And so those contracts are always cool because it gives the ESCO, the energy service company, kind of freedom to design whatever cutting edge energy savings solution.
So I know you're passionate about this, but I'd be remiss if we don't at least pause to talk a little, well, just in layman's term, the ESPC and the BAS, building automation system that you do. And I wonder if you can just, for the audience, just kind of describe what that is and why are you so excited about that?
So when you think about the building automation system, the key word there is automation. And so in a typical commercial building, you have different systems. You have a lighting system, you have your HVAC system, you might have your security system. So instead of a person having to manually turn the system on and off, you can automate it where it automatically, with some programming, goes on and off by itself, which allows you to save energy.
Depending on the occupancy and how it's being used,
Yes.
sensing people and things like that.
Absolutely. I get excited about that because it's very close to technology. So you have sensors in the field, you have wiring that connects these sensors back to a main controller, there's programming, and then you get the instant gratification. If you program it right, once you command it to come on or off, you see right away that it is working, that it comes on and off. And because of the technology, it definitely allows you to save energy. For example, if your building is unoccupied from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m., you can turn your systems down or ramp them down to conserve energy. And so because this system conserves energy, it's considered an ECM, an energy conservation measure. And so when you think of an ESPC, which stands for Energy Savings Performance Contract, that's facilitated through the Department of Energy. And basically any federal agency can come to the Department of Energy and say, hey, I have this project that I don't have the upfront capital to conduct. Maybe I can use your energy savings performance contract to get this work done. And so from there, they will contract with a energy service company. They come out there, do what they call an investment grade audit, where they survey the building to see how much energy they can save. And from that savings, that's what the government used to
put investments into to upgrade the building so that it does operate with that level of efficiency. So there's some kind of a payback with that investment.
Absolutely. So typically, the payback have to be within 25 years, and it doesn't allow the government to have to pay upfront capital.
Right.
They can pay it over 25 years. Right. So that's what makes that contract vehicle pretty useful.
Are you following all the stuff that's happening with the administration?
I am, and it's unfortunate that some projects have been dumped, I guess, or the plug has been pulled because of that. I know we had one project where they decided to not do solar, and I really didn't understand why, because I'm like, that's free energy, but I try to stay away from the politics.
So how are you handling it? How are you navigating through these challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think when there's chaos, there's opportunity. And so I think my mindset ever since a little boy hasn't changed. You just look for those opportunities.
I think well said.
Yeah, so if the opportunity is not there, where is the opportunity? So it becomes this exciting game. I like to gamify things. So, all right, the game now is, where are the opportunities?
Where there is chaos, there's opportunities. I love that.
So
as we're winding down, I want to give a plug to your organization that I know in your story has impacted your life and what you do. And so I wonder if you can speak a little bit about the Child of Mine. I know you're a board member, and it means so much to you, and it means so much to me just listening to the impact that is made in your life. I mean, it just seems like the impact is endless.
Absolutely. The Children of Mine Youth Center, I feel forever indebted to the center. You know, not only was it my first exposure to different professions and careers, but it was also a first place that I learned about faith. Like, we used to have Bible study and learn about God and learn how to navigate life. So right now, I'm currently on the board, but I've always felt obligated to return and give back to the community. One of the services they provide outside of tutoring to the youth and feeding the kids, they provide food and haircuts to the homeless. So my brother and I, we were able to go and provide haircuts. One thing that takes place in the urban community, they always say, is a food desert, because you don't have access to fresh produce and things of that nature. So I think the partnership that Children of Mine has with the food bank helps contribute to solving that problem just a little bit by providing that fresh produce to the community. And you mentioned the impact. It is an endless thing, because I was impacted by it. Now that I'm a father of 4 kids, these lessons and insights that I've gained, I'll pass down to them. And I think once they gain it, they'll pass it down to their kids, and it'll just keep continuing. Or at least that's the hope.
I want to give you the opportunity to maybe put a plug in on how anyone interested in partnering, donating, contributing, supporting in any ways, how do they get a hold of that?
So if you want to get a hold of the Children of Mine Youth Center, you can go to childrenofminedc.org, where you can find more information about the program, as well as if you wanted to make a donation, you can do that. And donations are greatly needed at this time to help with the renovations of the center.
As we wind down, I want to also give you the opportunity to offer some wisdom, some reflection for many of the people that might even be in similar situations as you, or anyone that's just facing challenges and obstacles in life. Any words of wisdom and thoughts there?
There's something that I take with me every day. It's 5 steps. And I think if it doesn't guarantee your success, it will increase the probability.
5-step program.
5 steps, real quick. The first thing you got to do is identify what it is you want in life. Where you want to go, what do you want to be, what do you want to do? You have to identify that. You got to ask yourself, tell yourself what that is. After you identify what it is, you need to write it down. Write it on a piece of paper, write it in your phone, write it somewhere. There's nothing magical about writing it down. It's just that as life happens and you get sidetracked, get hit with this or that, you can look back at it to be reminded of what you said you want to do. Number 3, you have to surround yourself with people and resources to help push you to that thing. If you don't have the physical mentor, get the book. Reading books can also serve as mentorship. So you've identified it, you've written it down, you've surrounded yourself with people and resources to help you get there. The 4th thing you have to do is not get distracted by the obstacles. You got to keep your eyes on the goal. A lot of things are going to happen. A lot of things are going to happen. Like Obama said, if it was easy, it would have been done already. So a lot of things are going to happen, but you can't get distracted. And the 5th thing is you just have to be patient and realize success takes work. So it's identify what it is, write it down, surround yourself with people and resources, don't get distracted, be patient.
Well, Sulaiman, I really appreciate you sharing that wisdom. Always appreciate having conversation with you and sharing your amazing story. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.